So Quinton Rubino then, pro player, giving some insight into LeBron. As he mentioned, obviously kind of born into table tennis royalty already, having a Pro A player as a dad, that is going to massively help you out.
I had the chairman. So, guys, episode 4, and look at this. The new mic covers have arrived.
These are premium.
Aren't they awesome?
These are, yeah. This is the Fan Zhendong and mic covers, this.
Yeah, they are.
This is how you know we're getting serious, guys. The podcast is growing now. These are elite mic covers.
I mean, I will say we ordered them in time for episode 1.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say, but at least they're here now.
You know.
It's a good product, but maybe the delivery could use some work.
You know what happened? I ordered them, and I got a response. Thanks for your order. We're all on vacation for 4 weeks. What?
Oh, perfect.
That's insane. Anyway, they're here now, and let's get stuck in.
Okay, so this episode is going to be a deep dive into Felix Lebrun, the French superstar. We want to look at kind of what makes him him, what's he really good at, where are a couple of areas that possibly people can exploit against him, and just kind of, I guess, deep dive into his game.
Yeah, 100%, Joe. Of course, Paris Olympics recently. So many players have had such an exposure out there, and Felix was just phenomenal out there.
Yeah, I think even before the Olympics, to be honest, he was kind of taking the world TT circuit by storm as well, getting some crazy results. Not just crazy results, but obviously he's only 17 years old as well. So I think that's kind of, he's probably the first player to really kind of have that impact of coming onto the scene since Harimoto, I would say, potentially.
Yeah, and as a European as well, it's almost more exciting for us guys as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting table tennis because we all know how it's such a tough sport, and you kind of expect someone in their in their prime at 27 to be at the top, but we're seeing so much more youngsters coming through now. And there was the notion back in the day of you peak at 27, etc. We've seen Harimoto coming through, like you said, Felix now getting a bronze medal. It's starting to change a bit, and a lot more youngsters are just storming through the rounds.
Yeah. I think, like that next gen of player of like really fast rallies, especially the backhand. I think we mentioned it on a previous episode, but like historically, like it was backhand hold, forehand bombs, and now it's actually like backhand pressure off everything. And Felix and Harimoto are the two main protagonists in that, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like I think, again, we mentioned it in the previous one. We were saying kind of like the older generation, T-Mobile, Freitas, Apollonia, whoever you want to say, Ovtcharov, these guys have had to go through so many changes in the sport. And maybe it is actually an advantage for the younger players who are just starting afresh. It's kind of like when you're coaching someone and they've come into the coaching session and they've got a bit of a dodgy forehand technique. It's actually harder to correct that and get them to have a proper forehand than it is teaching someone from scratch, like a pure beginner, teach them a forehand drive, because they've not got those bad habits. So I'm not saying that the top players have bad habits, but they have habits where they played in a certain way before the ball changed, or the service rule, for example, going back even further. I remember speaking to a lot of players. Gareth Herbert used to play for England, who played in the Commonwealths and stuff. He had one of the best serves in the world when you could hide the serve. And then he said it just totally like threw his game and made it tough when they changed the service rule.
You know what's really insane? I was actually about to bring up Gareth Herbert.
That is weird.
It's so weird because yesterday I was showing a friend. My friend said, how did Per Gurel learn that serve? Did Per Gurel learn it? I was like, no. Per Gurel told us that he learned it from Gareth Herbert. He saw him on a video. And then we watched Gareth Herbert on YouTube yesterday, and I was like, look how good Gareth's serves are. And not once there was a rally. Gareth won the point outright. There was no example of a rally, right?
The thing is, his forehand was so good as well that if you did somehow scrape the serve back, he just came in
that's what I was going to say. But when the opponent served, though, Gareth's forehand was ridiculous. But then when it comes to his backhand, he just held it really nicely.
Yeah.
And I was like, where's the backhand counter?
No.
I didn't see no backhand kick all game.
Nothing.
Patrick Barnes versus Gareth. It was when Patrick was coming up through the ranks. And there was no backhand counter topspin. And you think in today's game now, the ball comes to backhand, they're just backhand countering.
Yeah. Never mind counter topspin. There was no backhand topspin.
It just tickled it. It's a little really good feeling, like ding.
Just tickled it.
And then the forehand just bang. Yeah. So really interesting how, like you said, how the style has changed. And like Felix starting at a really young age, he's just playing with the plastic ball, with this new modern style, with really good coaching structure, which we'll go into. I think Joe, you got some good stats on who he is coached by and stuff. And that is what's allowing him to just play at a phenomenal level, going through that pathway.
Just quickly before we do move on to kind of like the background and Felix a bit more, like it must be frustrating for like these top players who've been around on the circuit for a long time and put so much into the game, so many years of experience, all the training, all the competitions, and all of a sudden there's these little whippersnappers coming through, like coming out of nowhere basically. He's 17 years old and he's just beating everyone. You must be like, have I been doing this wrong all these years? Like, what do I need to do here? Like, it must be so frustrating, right? Like,
100%.
From my point of view, I'd be like, this is so annoying. Like,
There's a video of Timo when Timo played Felix, and it was at WTT, and it was they're obviously interviewing Timo a lot the minute after he announced his retirement and stuff. And Timo said, I'm so happy I played Felix because I didn't want to finish my career not trying to have a go against seeing what it's like. Felix won 12-10 in the fifth. And
Timo wishes he hadn't.
Yeah, Timo was like, Timo was saying after the interview, like, it was amazing. It was incredible to see how powerful you are for your age. Like, he couldn't believe how powerful it was.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was like, both sides were just so powerful. And, yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff with Felix where it's not just the table not just the table training, but a lot of like gym stuff.
Yeah, plyometrics.
You know what I mean? Plyometrics. A lot of jumping about. There's not like static bench pressing. It's like very complex, targeted, table tennis specific,
sport specific.
Yeah, drills. And Louis, the beast in Germany, he's doing a lot of that as well. And all the coaches are pushing him into the gym with that type of training rather than the static standard gym stuff.
We were very lucky at the weekend to be at Andro Kids Tournament in Dusseldorf, which let me segue onto one point, actually, because we mentioned the next gen. Like, watching some of these kids, there were 1,200 kids there just loving table tennis.
It was great, wasn't it?
Table tennis in England is like dwindling, right? It's not in a good place. Over there, it was so refreshing to see that, like,
it's alive and kicking.
And they were buzzing. But they were like doing kick rallies in one. I was like, what is going on? Like, these 2 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
But it brings me on to a point that because Frog, you couldn't make it, it was your son's first birthday, which is a valid reason not to go. But we came up with a world-class nickname for the beast.
Oh, yeah.
Because he eats like a beast as well. So we said once he hits 30 and that metabolism slows down, he's going to be the fat beast, and we're going to call him Feast.
Oh, I like it. Or the O-beast. That's maybe a bit much.
He's going, thanks for the shout-out, guys.
Yeah, we just put O on the start of his T-shirt.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Anyway, going back to the youngsters, Felix, let's dive into what makes him so good then.
Yeah, back to Felix. So obviously, when you look at any kind of top-level athlete, whether it's like Serena Williams or Tiger Woods, there's always the common ground of reps early in life from a really, really good coach with solid foundations of technique. And Felix and Alexei are no different. You guys were recently in Paris for the Olympics. You met up with the Ping Pong Paris guys. Quinton Robino, you managed to grab some time with him, right? And he gave you some insight into the early kind of years of Felix and Alexei.
Yeah, it was really cool to talk to him. And obviously Quinton has had a lot of battles against Felix, knows him really well, knows his family as well. So has a good background and idea of why Felix is where he is. So it's good to talk to him.
Yeah, should we get stuck in and hear what Quinton has to say then?
Obviously, right now in France, Felix is hot stuff. He's beaten pretty much everyone. He's an incredible player. What do you think makes him so good at table tennis?
I really don't know what makes him so good, but he has a strong character. Mentally, he is really strong. He trains a lot. He has a family with him. His brother is pushing him really high. His father was top player also. He has good coach. He has an amazing physical coach. He has also partners who is really good. And he's starting to be one of the best players in the world. And he's starting also to be one really famous in France. Zizou was at the stadium to see his match.
So what, Zidane? When Zidane was at the match?
Yeah, so
It's massive. That's insane.
that's really insane. The
You don't
table
get much
tennis-
bigger than that.
Yeah, and table tennis is starting to be really famous in France, so it's really nice for us.
How much of an effect do you think having a brother who plays made a difference? Because you also have a brother who plays, right? So you can kind of, you can have experience of that. So do you think it helps, or is it sometimes difficult maybe?
I think it helps. Look, if you see me, I have my brother, and I'm a professional player. He's also a professional player. Simon Gauzy also have a brother. Charlotte and Camille Lutz have their siblings. So I think it helps for sure.
For me, technically, right, like obviously you know the game much better than me, professional player, but I don't ever see Felix blocking much. I feel like his style is like so relentless, backhand, forehand, counter, and he he's never passive,
He's never passive.
Yeah,
He always attacking, he always making spin. The ball is always have good quality, and you cannot, now the people play so strong, so you cannot block. If you block, you're dead. And Felix know that, and he played this unbelievable. Because he don't have so much power, but he was always playing fast, spinny balls also. He have good service, unbelievable receive. So he's really strong.
So, funnily enough, you've actually played Felix quite recently, right? In French Championship, was it?
Yeah, I played against Felix. It was really a close match. I think that I couldn't win this match, but he managed to win 4-2. It was 2-2, I was leading, 3-2 for him, I was leading also. I had my chance, and but I played a really unbelievable match, and I think his main goal for him is the Olympics and wasn't a French Championship, so. But
Yeah,
it
I mean,
was a good
still,
match for
it's a
me.
good performance from you.
It
Yeah.
was a good performance for sure.
Can't be unhappy with that.
I think now the new generation is starting to be really strong really early.
Interesting.
I think that he can be the world number one for sure. He have the quality, he have the mental, he have the trainers, he have everything. So I think he can get what he wants.
There you
And
go.
obviously, yeah, you're quite a few years ahead of Felix in terms of age and everything. When you were like, I don't know, younger, you must have seen him coming through when he was 12 or 10 or 12. And did you hear about him? Like, was there a point where everyone's like, there's a kid who's 12 years old who's going to be the best in France? Or did that not happen?
I knew him because my first years as professional in East, I was playing with his father.
All right, okay.
So he bring his kids there.
Oh, man.
And I met them there. So
So you inspired them, maybe? They saw you play.
No, Felix is playing like this because one teammate was playing like this, one
Really?
Chinese teacher.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's why he played like this.
Right.
And the fact also, my last year in Pro A, I was playing with Alexi.
So when he was 10, 12, 13, was it like, oh, this kid is good?
Yeah, he was
Yeah?
always really good when he was young. But he's really younger than me, so I didn't
It's
know
hard.
him so much. I didn't know his result, but he was still good.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, that's Felix Lebrun, Ping Pong Paris. Guys, check it out if you're ever in Paris, and it's an amazing place.
So yeah, so Quinton Rubino then, pro player, giving some insight into LeBron. As he mentioned, obviously kind of born into table tennis royalty already, having a Pro A player as a dad, that is going to massively help you out.
I had the chairman.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's an advantage as such, is it really?
I mean, look, we don't know exactly what age Felix started, but I heard that Harimoto started at the age of 3, right? So I'm sure Felix has started at some sort
Similar.
of 3, 4, whatever. And if you're, from the very beginning, getting someone off a Pro A level, really passionate, because obviously his father to try and improve you, he's going to do all the stuff very well, the right movement patterns, the right timing, etc. And you're just going to learn very quickly.
I would even say, forget like playing and coaching side of it, right? Just literally being in that environment from a young age.
Yeah.
Watching other players. Your kids are like sponges. They soak up things. You say some words around your kid, they'll soon pick it up. So you want to avoid like the swear words, otherwise, they're soon
Telling
picking
me.
it up. So it's difficult, right? So they are going to soak it up, hearing the sound of the ball, watching other people, like even the way they walk and act on the table, all these little subconscious things are going in even before they're probably even actually on the table and learning and playing, So probably a lot of it is in the subconscious brain, I would say.
Yeah, I heard an interview once with Francisco that when he used to train, even from the age of 6, Timo Boll was in the same hall with him for many years, and he said he would always finish his sessions, sit there watching Timo, idolize the hell out of him, of course. And if you look at the way Francisco plays now, he's got a very calm but aggressive table play.
Really has taken elements
and
from
Timo has that very well, right? It's like the combination of not being, too aroused in your play, but then you can control it. And that's where Francisco and Timo are both really strong at. And like you said, maybe subconsciously, players are visualizing and seeing that. Whereas, if let's say in our country, us three, all of us, we probably got a lot more exposed to TT at the age of 11, 12. You come out of primary school, you then start really trying to train full time.
Yes, so we're already 5-6 years behind at the best scenario.
And well, definitely in my case, was not seeing anywhere near the level of play that Felix and these like a Harimoto or a Francisco would see, which makes a heck of a difference.
They do say, from the age of like 2 to 7 is when your brain is like, all the neurons are like going in the directions they need to go in, right? From the way you like eat your food, everything, the way you walk. And if you're actually hitting a table tennis ball at that age, from the age of 2 to 7, in a good constructive way, it's fun, and you're in the right way, you're gonna get the right habits early on.
You're like learning through osmosis, aren't you? Just being around that environment. Like it's like anything, like you become like the people you're around most often, right? So if you're always hanging around people who are, let's say you're in school, you're hanging around the kids who are being naughty and annoying the teachers, that's gonna rub off. And it's the same if you're in that good environment of table tennis, that it will rub off on you.
If you've got the right environment, it's so important. Maybe let's say Felix didn't become like top 10 in the world or whatever it is at the minute, or got the bronze medal, even with that environment, you're going to get top at least 200 in the world or 100. It's going to put you into the professional status at least.
Yeah, I think that environment enables it enables what you put into it. If you put in hard work, you can reach the very, very top.
So it basically gives you that platform, doesn't it? Like,
yeah, exactly. Just come back to Franziska, and you've got quite a story, haven't you? I think you travelled over there to do a video with Franziska, but couldn't get in the hall, right?
We're going to do a video with Franziska, and Franziska goes, "Oh no, we haven't got the key for the building, and I can't get hold of the caretaker." And Franziska goes, "The only other person that's got a key to this place right now is T-Mobile." So he's like, "Oh no!" So he has to ring up Timo. It's like 7 a.m. We're going to start early. He's woken up Timo and gone, "Timo, I can't get in the building. Can you come pick us up?" And we're already kind of driving there anyway. So we rock up. Timo's there before us. We're stuck in traffic by about 45 minutes. So Timo's probably been waiting there for God knows how long. And he's got the key in his hand. He's like, "Hello, guys. I'm your caretaker today." And I'm just like, oh, my God. It was just such a weird feeling. And then we go into the like, "Cheers, Timo." And I was just like, oh, this is so strange. What a weird world. But it was funny. But fair play to Timo letting us in.
poor Timo.
I know. And it was really early. I think he phoned him at like 7, and we got there. Yeah, like, I don't know what time it was, but it was messy. We drove from like the other end of Germany. It was just brutal.
Did you have to get Timo back out when you wanted to lock up?
To lock up. Timo come back out. Yeah.
No.
And I kind of like put the tables away, and like Timo had his way of what he's doing. So he didn't like close the table up, and I was like picking up the balls, and it was really weird. It's like it was really weird.
All right. Go back to Felix as well, because if someone isn't necessarily that well known in table tennis, the first thing they're going to notice about him is his grip, right? It's not like the normal standard. I got a bat here. So yeah, the first thing they're going to notice is he holds it in what we call a Penhold style, right? Which is like this traditional Chinese style that kind of has gone off the radar a little bit. Even the youngsters in China are playing with the normal shake hand grip. Supposedly because it gives you a much better balance between forehand and backhand, right? It's much easier to play backhand. Felix is kind of tearing up the rule book on this, right? Because his strength is that backhand, right?
It's that reverse grip, right? So it's kind of one that like Wang Hao and stuff brought in. I don't know exactly how his fingers positioned are, but the old pen grip was kind of like this. So you could only play forehand. Yeah. And then Wang Hao kind of brought this type of thing in.
There's different types of Penhold grip, basically, yeah.
And even if you see when Felix serves, he's got a different way of doing it on his serve and then changes, and it's quite complex. But I think with this grip, you can get more wrist, especially like the short game and stuff, which you can see with Felix, and he's phenomenal in this area. Like Marlin had massive advantages in this area as well. So, there's definitely advantages to the grip. And what's really, I think, bizarre with it is there was a notion back in the day with if you've got a pen grip, it's very hard to like be this rally player. You've got to be short and then third ball attack like Marlin, but then Wang Hao was very safe and consistent, and Felix is he's as consistent in the rally as a shakehand player, yet has the advantages of the short game with the pen grip. So he's kind of got the best of both worlds.
He's probably actually just thinking about it, I kind of just thought about it then when you said it, but he's probably the closest player to Wang Hao. Like in terms of style, I get like Wang Hao was a lot more like powerful, and he'd step off and like rip it a lot more. So it is still a bit different because Felix is staying up close and countering, but it's fairly similar. Like Marlin was very different. Marlin was very much like serve and third ball attack, same as Ru Xingmin, very much forehand dominant. Whereas Wang Hao was the first one to really
use this backhand,
kind of use it properly. Yeah.
And really good blocking. Like even when when someone pressured Marlin or Ru Xingmin to the backhand, the point was over. They were like just really.
They were just so good at avoiding that. Yeah.
Wang Hao could just still like kick it in, and this is what Felix is doing. As soon as I think anyone really watches Felix for the first time and you understand table tennis well, you're like, how is he doing that backhand like he is? Yeah. With so much quality and consistency, it's like it's ridiculous. You don't often see that with even players of shakehand grip, but anyone of that level just being able to keep being so consistent with that ripping backhand.
Well, even Dan Chu is still Penhold grip, it's probably top 12 player, I'd imagine, in the world right now. But even he plays stylistically slightly different to Felix, right? Doesn't stand so close. Like you said about Wang Hao, likes to step off and has this big forehand swing. Yeah.
I like how Dang Chu plays, but I feel like this is obviously like ultra critical and I'm nowhere near his level, but I feel like he's quite nice how he plays. Like it doesn't feel like he's like snapping and really aggressive into the shots. Like, obviously he has a lot of power, obviously he has a lot of spin. Like, it goes without saying, he's a top player. But if you compare him to Felix, I feel like Felix is just a lot more nasty and aggressive in the way he's doing things, and Dang Chu's quite like soft. It's like he's floating on a little cloud and having a great time.
Yeah,
like he's in his shower with his microphone singing. Do you know what I mean? It's quite like nice, isn't it?
Which was a bit like Wang Hao as well. There was
Yeah,
like a lot of
yeah.
niceties to it, but Felix is coming with this more like fierce,
Yeah.
hyper-aggressive play.
I can't wait to have Dan Chu on the podcast and play that bit for him.
Yeah. He'd be like, what?
He'd be like, I'm going to show you, and it will just be a compilation of him just killing them.
But I do like that about his game as well, because it's quite like, I'm quite envious of how chilled he looks when he's playing Dang Chu. Like, and it just like, he's obviously generating a lot of power in that relaxed way. I'm just thinking like, maybe if he could get like, I don't know, just every now and then bring in that more like aggressive early Felix kind of shots, and that could even maybe take his game to the next stage. I don't know.
We talked about Felix a bit before, Tom, together about how, okay, when you play this like really aggressive way, there's a bit of risk to it as well. So there might be a bit of like personality involved with like how much risk do you take? You know, a lot of people do say people's personalities come into their sport, right? And maybe Dan Chu, I don't know, obviously, massively was like off the table, etc., or how he does things, but maybe he doesn't take as much risk potentially. Whereas Felix Felix is a bit younger, right, as well. When you're that age, at 17, 16. You have no fear, you know, and you just rip it. And maybe when Felix gets a bit older, he might actually have a bit more different pressures.
For sure,
you know?
because for sure there's more expectation then as well, isn't there? Before we do quickly move on from Dang Chu, actually, in fairness to him, he I mean, didn't burst onto the scene at like Felix's level, but he still won the Europeans more or less out of nowhere. Like, he would definitely not have been in the top contenders the year or two or 18 months before that, and then he won the Europeans. So, in fairness to him, he has had a pretty quick rise.
He actually, Dan Chu as well,
yeah.
beat Felix 3-2 at the Champions Tournament in China, yeah.
A few months back, wasn't it?
Yeah. Final thing I wanted to mention about the Penhold grip, because immediately you can see where you're gripping it, right? You're taking up space on the bat. So he's got even less, even if he's his fingers round, right, he's losing space
true.
on the backhand rubber. I mean, I use the whole rubber. I'm playing top edge, bottom edge, middle bit.
Big square bat on the
Yeah,
table.
yeah. I hit one of those dodgy blocks, you know, where it like kind of floats over and you're like, cho. But yeah, he's playing with less kind of real estate here and still cracking the ball really, really well.
It's crazy, really, yeah.
If we go into then Felix, because we mentioned he kind of came on the scene really, really quickly. He, at the age of 16, beat Freitas at the 2023 European Games in a final. And then he went on about 3 months later. There was a contender, WTT Contender Series tournament in Turkey. And normally the Contender Series are kind of the lower level players. Felix won that, and I'll just run through who he beat to get there, because it's a killer's row. He beat Ruben Phillips, then he beat Hugo Calderano, then he beat Anton Schauberg, and then Dima in the final. Turkey got one hell of a tournament there, didn't they?
Yeah, we missed out there.
Ridiculous. Yeah, it's insane, isn't it? How do you do that run?
At 17 years old as well.
And like you were saying earlier, Tom, these players have all this experience. And this is what you really fascinated me with Harimoto. He came on the scene at the age of 11. He beat Omar Asar there.
That's the one I remember, Omar Asar.
How?
Because the visuals were so strange, because Harimoto's so small, and Omar Asar's a big guy as well.
Do you think of like, how does an 11-year-old beat Omar Asar?
Well, I mean,
And he beat someone else there. Jens
beat- yeah,
Lundqvist.
Jens
Lundqvist. The guy's a beast. Like, he's been playing for 25 years with unbelievable experience.
so that's where I think like they're definitely the fear factor of losing to someone like that comes in for sure. It makes you more tense. You're like,
think so?
For sure it does. For sure.
But surely
Like,
at 0-0, like the first set, you just like sling off table 11-2 to 11.
I mean, he's obviously at a very high level, 11-year-old
How?
as well. Training from such a young age. So
What
young.
did he train? -10?
No. But he's obviously, like we were saying, he's obviously started early. But like for sure, that fear factor comes in.
A little
But
kid
no, I
as
hear
well,
you.
like, he's not quiet, Harimoto. Like, there's no way you can kind of quietly
Hide.
get away with this result and you've lost, and I'm just going to never mention again. Harimoto would have been screaming the house down as well. Like,
Oh, yeah.
This
You know-
11-year-old kid, I can't stop him. I literally can't stop him.
You know that Harimoto win against Jens and Omar? It was shockwave the internet, didn't it? It was such a big thing. And like a year later, Jens had to play Harimoto again at the Swedish Open, and Jens was like, right, I'm not losing to him this time. And I watched it live, and Harimoto won again. Jens was not happy. Yeah, he just, you know, he's probably like frustrated. Like it was ridiculous. Harimoto was doing it, and obviously I would love to see some videos of. I've heard when Felix was 11 as well, we could barely see over the table like Harimoto. and a little Penhold bat pops up over the table and it just doesn't miss. It's just extremely safe and consistent. And when you watch Harimoto, then it was just it just didn't miss.
Yeah.
In the speed glue generation with celluloid ball, would an 11-year-old been able to pull that off? I reckon probably not. I think it's different now with the plastic ball, and like you said, people are just going through that same thing, the training just with the plastic ball. That's it, and just good quality background. But I don't know. The results are a lot more consistent now with young players coming through.
Yeah, you go back to that speed glue, never mind the speed glue and ball, but just in that time period, there wasn't those kids coming through and beats. It just wasn't. It just wasn't unheard of.
It was the old guard, wasn't it?
Yeah, it just didn't happen. I mean, there might be an upset here and there, but not like a major upset of an unheard of 11-year-old. It just didn't happen.
Didn't know.
Here's an interesting one for you. Does it like when you come onto the scene that early, like all these guys, like let's take Timo as an example, right? So he's worked for years and years and years. Let's say he actually doesn't have any Olympic medals, but let's say he's worked for all these years, had an amazing career, and he wins an Olympic medal. You'd feel like, wow, yeah, I've really earned that. Like I've put so much into that. Whereas Felix is just 17, just rocks up, gets a bronze medal. I mean, obviously he's absolutely buzzing, but does it have that same thing of like, is it like, well, I've almost done it now. Like, obviously, it's a bronze medal. It's not a gold or silver, but it's like,
okay, but take the team
a weird feeling.
The team event for France. Did you see Gauzy's reaction? Gauzy's reaction.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good example. In the whole room, everyone could feel it in their goosebumps looking at Simon Gauzy, right? You were just like, you wanted to go and give him a hug. Yeah. Because you could feel like the geezer's gone through so much, like 20 years of just graft and multi-ball. He's been playing when Felix wasn't even in the universe. He wasn't even existing. And he's been, grafting away, trying to keep at the top level in France and probably always having that Olympic medal in mind. And for a lot of athletes, for anyone, even from a young age, you don't even believe you could win an Olympic medal. It's just such a high prestige thing. I want to ask these players like Felix and Charles, did you think you were ever going to get to a bronze medal? Even because it's so, or any medal, it's so tough.
Simon Gauzy put a post out on Instagram yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, and he wrote it in English actually. He's like, I still can't believe it, even 10 days on. Yeah. Even now, it doesn't feel real winning this medal. So I don't know. It just from my point of view, I'm like, I wonder if Felix obviously has that buzz, but is it the same if you haven't had a long career and you've worked? Obviously, he's worked extremely hard for it, but do you know what I mean? Do you kind of get where I'm coming from?
No, sure. It's like anything, isn't it? Like if you whatever it is, I don't know. Let's say we do 100 podcasts and, the podcast is like...
Are you comparing 100 podcasts to an Olympic medal?
Let's just cut that. I'm just thinking of anything that you put a lot of effort into, right? Yeah. And let's say, like, how many training sessions has Simon Gauzy turned up to? How many training sessions has Felix turned up to?
Yeah, well, Simon Gauzy just on law of averages has done more because he's been around longer and played longer.
He's gone to probably 1,000 more countries. He's done more air flights. It's not easy being an athlete. You're in a hotel 24/7. You're on an airplane 24/7. You're jet lagged 24/7, and you've got to try and hit that white ball on the table, which is hard enough in a local league, let alone wherever you are in the world.
Yeah, I get the feeling of like kind of it meaning more to those who have gone through their peaks and then hit a trough. Yeah. And like Simon Gauzy's hit a heck of a trough in the last few years. To come out of that and then pick it up is such a great moment that Felix obviously hasn't experienced yet. Hopefully he doesn't.
Felix has been peaking.
Yeah. Does it also for Felix, maybe it's an advantage winning it that young because it kind of like him winning a bronze medal at 17 almost normalizes being at that level and performing.
Might not feel the pressure.
Well, I got it at 17. Like I should be in this Olympic semi-final. I should be in this world champ final. Do you know what I mean? So for him, it's like it's not like, oh my God, wow, a bronze medal. Now it's like, well, I've got that. Now that's my benchmark of. That's kind of what I should be hitting.
Well, Felix, part of Team France, they won in the men's teams, won single at the World Championships, lost to China in the final. But that was back in, I think, February of this year. So that's a really good validation that you're at that level heading into the Olympics, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
There's a lot of players that retire who were at an incredible level but never, ever got a medal from the Olympics. And Felix has already done that.
Yeah, and Truls.
Truls
in the same boat. He's only, 5 years older?
Yeah, I was talking to the guys from Stiga, and they were saying that now Truls in Sweden is like top-tier A-lister celebrity. Like, completely.
Good.
And wherever he is, selfies. He had even had like a security guard with him when he went to the Esloff opening.
That was
Two
huge.
security people, yeah. It was incredible.
Well, that's great for table tennis.
It's amazing. Yeah. I don't know what it's like in France, but I'm pretty sure it probably ain't much different. I've seen on Felix's pages on different talk shows and stuff, and it's just fantastic, isn't it?
He's not got him on here yet, but we'll get there.
go into Felix's strengths then, because we mentioned it earlier, and I kind of wrote it down here as like, tried to surmise of like, what do I think he does out of like being super aggressive? And I think it's manipulation of time. He tries to take time away from his opponent. So the whole game is based on, even before he's served, he's going to take less time between catching the ball and hitting the ball in. Everyone else takes a bit of time. You know, they drop the ball on the table. They maybe wipe their hand. They take a few breaths. They then go down and serve. None of that with him. He's down, serves, straight in. Then his style, he stays very, very close to the table, right?
Comes back to you straight away.
Yeah. He's relying or he's gambling on the fact that you cannot play the shot and recover as fast as he can. That's what his whole game is about. Takes the ball, obviously, if we talk about peak of the bounce and why that's kind of important, he obviously likes to take it ideally before the peak or at worst at peak. He doesn't want to be taking it after the peak. Do you just want to talk about, I guess, again, if someone's new to table tennis, why do we try to focus on taking the ball at the peak of the bounce?
Yeah, well, we kind of talked about it a bit, didn't we, in the recent academy video we did? And if you take it early, you get the power, you get more power. So when the ball's rising and you contact on the rise, you're going to get more power in your shot as well because you're using the energy. Whereas when the ball's dipping, you're now having to now work with the ball more and get it up and over the net. And that's why you can take it so early because his timing is immaculate, and it's like a magnet. And it's like.
But you do have to say there's more risk involved with that. Obviously, taking the ball earlier, there's more. The earlier you take the ball, there's more spin left on it from the opponent. If you leave it longer, there's less. The spin is lost slightly, so there's less chance you're going to make a mistake. And obviously, the margin over the net as well. It's a point a lot of people when you teach a beginner or someone improving, you teach them, hit the top of the bounce. That's the highest point of the ball. That's the biggest chance you've got to get it over the net in simple terms.
It's phenomenal how consistent he is with that ability to take it so early and play at such high speed. But I guess if you do that, let's say he's been training like that since the age of 6 or 5, and he's 16, 17, he's got 10 years of doing that, and maybe lost matches along the way where he's done too much risk. But long term, that's going to get consistent. And that's kind of where he's got to, and that's where players struggle because they're like, well, it's just coming back and it's going on, and how has he made that shot? And when you first watch him, you're just like, there's no way he can maintain this level for 7 sets, yet does and win so many matches 4-0 or 4-1.
How do you teach short swings in a player? If you had a 7-year-old Felix here, how do you really focus on short swings to recover quick? Do you do that via multi-ball?
I think multi-ball is a big one. I think you kind of demoed it. Like when you demoed it there, you kind of did it automatically without thinking, but like you used your elbow a lot more. Whereas a lot of people would use their whole body,
swing.
the weight transfer, the whole arm, and which obviously you can generate more power. But if you're snapping from the elbow and the wrist here, you can keep it very short and quick.
Also, right, cheers, mate. Because he's got a pen grip, right? He can add more wrist with the forehand as well. Yeah. So even though he can't, like let's say a shake hand, we'll have to maybe do a bit more backswing to get the same quality, and he's going to lose that time, so they might top edge. With pen, you can just like kick here and here, and that's what he's like. He's like, and it's fizzing the ball over, and still getting that good quality spin. So maybe the Penhold grip with that sort of style, who knows, more players might come through the system with that grip. I have heard there's a lot of kids in France playing Penhold grip. We heard that from someone. Was it the guys from Ping Pong Paris saying it?
Damien.
Yeah.
Damien as well, and Andrew.
Yeah, he was saying it. Yeah, he said there's a lot of kids now playing Penhold.
I think the transition of switching, like you got the back there, Joe, like the transition of switching forehand to backhand is a bit more smooth with Penhold.
Yeah,
there obviously are pros and cons, but the wrist has to do a lot more there.
Wrist here.
Yeah.
Even when I've spoken to pros, because I like change my grip a little bit, and I've always said to Dimitri once, like, do you change your grip? Do you feel it between backhand and forehand? He's like, yeah, there's a slight change.
I changed mine. Dima's got the biggest grip change of backhand and forehand in the professional game.
That's what I'm saying.
It's huge.
But I was asking him, like,
can I borrow it,
do you
Joe?
recognize it? Like, is it just a thing you've adapted? Like, do you train it, or is there something there? He's like, no, I think as long as you can play your forehand and backhand well, then focus on the shots, and then you keep the racket in front, right, and then you can play it. But with this pen grip, it's seamless.
So just a quick one. We were saying about, I think the pen grip, like I said, the transition's a bit smoother between backhand and forehand. I also think your wrist is, no matter what shot you're doing, your wrist is always free in Penhold grip. Whereas with shake hands, I remember Liam Pitchford said something really interesting when we did the masterclass with him. He was saying, I know a lot of people obviously change their thumb position.
Right. For backhand
and forehand. Like he was saying, when your thumb is lower, like this, like you would do on a forehand, your wrist is a lot more stiff and locked. It's still, you can still keep it relaxed, but it's more stiff and locked than it would be. And so for forehand, that's fine. And then he brings his thumb up higher in the backhand, which frees up this part of your wrist to use it more. I just find that really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, and if you're having to do that, maybe with Penhold, you're getting that all the time because your wrist is, like I say, just the position the bat's in, your wrist is always quite free.
Makes sense, innit?
So Pitchford or Dimitri is having to fiddle around and get that position, whereas Felix is just like ding, 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 ding straight away. Hit the jackpot.
We might have just nailed it on the head, guys. It took a little while.
Well, there we go, guys. That was a lovely analysis.
No, I think we have. I mean, that makes so much sense. That's how we can maintain that beating the opponent through speed.
Speed, manipulation of time. He is going to hit the ball with more quality than you and recover to hit another one with more quality, and you are going to break down before he does. Even the serves that he does are majority of the time long, fast,
Skiddy
pendulum.
ones, yeah,
Exactly.
horrible
Just
things.
straight in on it.
We are in. There's not a lot of touch that Felix sets off on his own.
Again, that's probably the advantage of, like, let's be honest, table tennis is a young person's game, right? The advantage of youth being quick reaction speed, fitness, ability to just do it over and over. It's going to be easier for him than other people. So, obviously, doing that at an older age, like Dimitri, it's tough, it's tough.
I wonder as well as if, you said, Joe, how he's serving straight away and not giving people much time.
Like, see, this is one thing I was going to bring it up. This is one thing I don't get because I've heard a lot of players. We've discussed this with. I can't remember. I don't want to name names of top players, but there's been players who said, "Oh yeah, he really rushes you," and like. I'm not sure if I buy that though, because the first thing you get taught as a kid, if someone's rushing you, is just put your hand up and say, "I'm not ready." Like that's the most basic thing ever, right?
There was a match in the WTT and a Chinese player. I can't
It was
remember.
Marlon kept putting his hand up.
No, there was someone who got a yellow and then a red
Okay.
against Felix because they were trying it.
Right.
They were doing it, and the umpire kept saying play. And it is kind of we saw it at the Olympics as well. Of kind of Felix is probably on the really fast side, but there are absolutely people who are also on the really slow side. And I guess the sweet spot is probably somewhere in the middle. But yeah,
I mean, there's obviously rule. The actual rule is that you have to play to the server's pace. So, like, if the server's got the ball and ready, the receiver should be ready to receive, basically. So you can't like faff around and be making the server wait, basically. But there is there's a point where it becomes like you're grabbing the ball and serving, and you're just genuinely not ready. Like, so there is a balance, and I think. The first thing, like when you're a kid and you get taught if you're not ready, you put your hand up and say, "Look, I'm not ready."
Yeah.
Like, again, it, like Joe said, you can't be doing that as a tactic then to slow him down. So it can become tricky, I suppose, of like, is someone genuinely not ready and putting the hand up and saying, or are they are aware of Felix's strength for speeding the game and they're trying to slow him down. So it's a difficult one.
Going into then some of the areas where we've seen Felix get exposed slightly. So we mentioned the grip. Is there an argument with this Penhold grip rather than shake hands that it exposes your middle slightly more? It feels like if I'm going to try and cover my
I would say so.
my right hip.
I remember I think you mentioned this in the final. Felix in first, Fan Zhendong whenever they played. We watched it here. And you mentioned about the hip, right? And we were laughing because it went straight to Felix's body.
If we just actually take it all the way back, if someone's never watched table tennis before, what do we mean by right hip and why is it such a weakness for everyone in the world?
You can play your shots when you're in position, backhand and forehand.
Yep.
Comes to your body, it's hard. Do you play backhand? Do you play forehand?
You have to make a choice.
That's why we call it the crossover, don't we?
Yeah, the
in that
crossover.
middle, because it's the crossover between backhand and forehand point.
And we mentioned it, and it was funny. It went straight to Fan Zhendong, target the hip, and Felix was caught out, and he did like this scoop shot, right? And he was like, oop. And then Fan Zhendong top spin it, and Felix just went bang straight past it. It was like, it may be a little bit weakness, but the next shot was fine. But no, he was caught out. But it was just funny because we saw that, and then the next ball he just went bang.
Yeah, and that right hip, that crossover point is kind of the generic weakness for any player. If you watch any WTT match at any level, they're always going to be targeting the right hip.
Yeah, just because you have to move to get it. Whereas if you play backhand and forehand, you're generally going to be quite stable, right?
Yeah. So that feels like if you were coaching someone against Felix, you would be saying, like you say, target the hip, and then the next one, I mean,
All the best.
yeah, all the best. Maybe go there again.
Yeah.
Just don't turn up to the table.
Yeah.
Don't even play.
Shake his hand. Do it.
Yeah.
Can I, just a quick one on what you brought up there, Joe? I think it's interesting. Like Felix is For a Penhold player, Felix probably has more weakness in the hip, the crossover, whatever you want to call it, than other players probably have in the past. So like, Ma Lin and Wang Hao, we mentioned them before. They were top Chinese Penhold players in the past, but they were a lot more, sorry, I didn't actually mean Wang Hao, I meant Ru Xingmin and Ma Lin. And they were very forehand dominant Penhold players. So it almost took the decision making of crossover out the way. They knew if it's going my crossover, I'm playing a forehand. So that they would never lean across and do that and play a backhand from that point, because they were so forehand dominant. They would always just move and play forehand. Whereas Felix has, like a shakehand player, got that decision to make. Okay, do I shift and play forehand? Do I lean and play backhand? So it's just interesting that traditional older style, very much limited Penhold game. That is one thing that it could probably be easier to deal with, is that crossover, because it just wasn't a decision to make.
Yeah, back in the day it was so forehand dominant the sport. So the middle was kind of like, oh, it's great, it's in my middle, I want to play a forehand here. But now, as you said, the backhand has become such a key shot.
If anything, players are playing backhand more from that crossover point than forehand now, like Fan Zhendong, Ovcharov, Darko Jorgic. A lot of them are doing it.
A weak ball into that middle. They'll step forward with their right leg if they're right-handed.
Yeah.
Come forward through the ball.
I just think it's a quicker transition over to play backhand now, I think.
Louis was telling me, Beast, and it reminded me because I've read it before. There's this study done at one of the Olympics, and they found that most points were won in backhand-to-backhand exchange. So it kind of basically summarized, the stronger the backhand you have, that's where most points are won. So you need to get that area strong.
Yeah.
And when you watch Felix, his crossover can be a problem, but he is still good at even coming over, like you said, with that right leg and covering the middle with the backhand. And there was a time where people said, if it comes to the middle, play a forehand. But now there is this thing, and Pitcher talked about it as well, is practicing playing the backhand from the middle, using that right leg and being able to cover the angle.
Yeah. Well, that kind of leads on to the next point of like one of the potential weaknesses, because if he takes that backhand from middle, by shifting his body weight right, you can then target him wide to his left-hand side, outside of his left leg there. And we saw that a few times with Fan Zhendong, like bait one into the middle, Felix takes that step to his right, plays it back, and then he tanks this ball as hard as he can outside the left leg. Yeah, which left him a little bit exposed.
Fan Zhendong right now is the only player that I've seen where he's playing Felix, and you just...
I was going to say, it's such a tough thing to do that, though, still. To play, fine, play to the middle and play wide backhand, fine, but it's got to be of enough sufficient quality to get him to struggle and be out of position,
No, Fan Zhendong right now is ridiculous.
Well, again, if we came up against a player who takes the ball super early, or we were coaching a junior against someone like that, the tactic would be slow the ball down, slow and spin it, manipulate that arc on the ball so that they can't necessarily take it at the same point every time, which Fan Zhendong did beautifully, right? He was always mixing the pace of his shots, the location of his shots, and that arc on the ball makes it super hard for Felix.
Fan Zhendong can then keep up with him as well, even when it does
if
come
he
to
wants,
that stage. Whereas with Timo, when played Felix, it's like Timo has all that variation and stuff, but then Felix can still put that speed pressure on Timo, and you see Timo like, he's like stretching out, doing the thing. Whereas you don't see that at Fan Zhendong. He's competing with him at that
He's
speed.
able to go backhand to backhand to backhand,
and then just do that line ball Fan Zhendong does.
Yeah.
I was going to actually ask you two, what if you played Felix, what would the tactics be? Well, we kind of covered it there already. Like Fan Zhendong did it so well, where he's one of the probably only players I've seen do it, where it's like a very fast exchange, usually on the backhand to backhand, and he can be like fast, and then intentionally he almost does this little lean and just brushes over the ball more and catches it finer, and it's like a slow ball, but it's like exactly the same technique, and he just catches the contact slightly differently, and it's like the real spinny slow one.
And I bet that is laced.
Oh yeah.
Could you imagine the quality of that ball?
Again, the peak of that bounce on that when he slows up will be at a completely different point, which means Felix needs to adjust to it. Obviously, if he doesn't, he's then going to take the ball at a worse point. He's either going to rush it too early or he's going to take it too late.
Sorry, I just had a really funny thought that like players might be watching this podcast now to get tactics about us.
Subscribe to the academy.
Dimitri's like, okay, let me study these guys, what they're saying.
I like the idea of like Felix being like, go on then boys, go and try that. If you really want, just serve short float to my forehand because Zuzin said it was a weakness, and he's just like, whoosh.
You think my body's a weakness, Joe? All right, let's see.
Yeah, I mean, all the best to you trying it, but yeah, again, it's more about from a analysis point of view of like, what he's doing well. But yeah, I think it's not the slow ball's the game, but it's the variation. But again, that's a lot of players, right? Like if you play at one pace, it can be really, really good.
Well,
like,
Truls.
Yeah, again, Truls is one that is probably doing that well and also vulnerable to it as well. Because if you play faster tools all the time, punch, chop block, like he'll just crunch you.
Yeah.
But he's also very good himself at manipulating the timing and pace of the shot during the rally, like slowing it down with the chop block, etc.
And I think if you look at the players who have managed to beat Felix, there's not many of them this year. Hugo managed to do it in June, just before the Olympics. And obviously Hugo's someone who takes a step off the table, able to either crack through the ball with a very shallow arc or slow the ball in as well. Really spin it.
But I think you hit the nail on the head where the first thing you said, he drops off. So being rushed by Felix doesn't then become much of an issue because he's dropped off anyway. So he's not like trying to stay and compete with him. He's like, fine, I'll drop back.
I felt like that's what Fan Zhendong was doing for his variation as well. Fan Zhendong was dropping off. So when Felix is going fast, he has the time to then just kick it in. And then Fan Zhendong's not losing top to top.
Yeah.
Because actually, going back to what Quentin Robineau said, he said actually Felix doesn't have a lot of power. So by dropping off, I mean, obviously he has a lot of power compared to us guys, but like, maybe compared to Ma Long, Fan Zhendong, Hugo, exactly, yeah. So, and those guys are the ones, he's not like a powerhouse of a player, is he? It's the speed that's beating players. So, yeah, he's using his kind of advantages to, maximizing his advantages, if you say, like, whereas Hugo is someone who could probably do that and compete by stepping off,
Slightly off topic to what we're talking about in a minute, but it just reminded me, Christophe Legout is, you're saying earlier, is Felix's uncle, right? So we were going back to earlier about his father played in Pro A, which is like the highest level really you can get in league table tennis. And then, so let's say, for example, he's a bit fed up of practicing with his dad. They've had an argument. All right, son, go play with Christophe Legout. You know what I mean?
Oh, hang on.
Go play against your uncle.
Hold on a minute. There's an even more important person we haven't mentioned here.
His brother.
His brother.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Of course.
So, I mean, that's one hell of a practice partner.
You think of how good you got at Mario Kart on the N64 because your brother was good at it. You're like, I'm going to beat him.
No,
I'm
so
going to
legit.
beat him. Yeah, imagine that at like elite level table tennis.
We need to have a game at Mario Kart. I'm world class at it. I played it for like 10 years straight.
Well, why don't me and you?
Yeah, we're having a Mario Kart match.
Yeah.
One race.
No, not between us. We'll take on Felix and Alexa.
Oh,
nice.
Because they'll be good at it.
But that was something else that Quentin Robineau mentioned because Quentin has a younger brother who's actually Alexandre Robineau, who's a very good player as well. I mean, it goes without saying that it's a ready-made practice partner, but he said that is one hell of an advantage, which it makes sense.
When I was 13, my brother quit at the age of 11, right? But he started at 8 and I was at like 10, 11.
This is Dan's excuse why he never made it as a pro.
Yeah, no, but there was a lot of stress because like you're in the hall and you're so competitive with each other. And it's like,
pushes you.
And I don't know if Alex had the same thing, but literally, I would go to train hall. If we played top table and I played against my brother, it was war. Like it was like I was in like the national final or something. Like it was bigger. No, it's actually way bigger than that. Like for me, I did not want to go home in the car for an hour drive having lost to my brother.
Yeah,
he's got the one up on me. You know what I mean? And it's literally you'll be going to school the next day raging.
It's a dogfight.
Yeah, it is. So that, and it's a shame he quit at 11. Really, it was really good. But anyway. Felix and Alexei having that battle.
Just going back to your brother, didn't he? So he quit and then didn't touch a bat for like 20 years and then came back as the Hawaiian duo that won the £1,000 challenge. In
the last person standing. Yeah, that is exactly him. Yeah, it was phenomenal, really, how he did that. But yeah, he there's a competitiveness to it, and Felix and Alexei would have gone through that as well. But now I feel like they've got to a level and what's the word, a maturity where they're both just pushing each other now.
Yeah.
They're amazing. Maybe they've always been like that. Maybe that's probably why my brother quit because it was too competitive.
No, I mean, for sure there is that element of rivalry there. It's just natural between two individuals.
And also they can train with each other. Now, how often the number one difficulty I think in table tennis is having a training partner to play against at the time you can train, right? Now, Felix and Alex are going to the same school probably. They're doing the same thing growing up. So they can just practice with each other all the time. And they can do multiple to each other. They've got the coaches. They've got Legout. It's just an insane hotbed to create a legend.
Yeah.
Two legends. I mean, Alexei, phenomenal as well. We haven't talked about
we haven't
two different styles though, isn't it?
It's
interesting.
weird, it's
two different
insane.
styles.
Again, not even started, two different grips to start off with.
Yeah.
Like, he's a shake hands player.
Alexei's a bit like bigger in the legs as well.
Yeah.
He's a bit seems a bit stronger. Like, it's just different. It's weird.
Takes steps off. Even when he's attacking, he'll drop off and then bomb.
He can fish well.
Yeah.
He's
fish well. fish well.
He sent
Wang
all sorts of
Chuqing,
donkeys.
Yeah.
I know, it almost ended his career.
Alexei needs to be called the donkey herder. He's
Yeah.
just collecting them.
You know, when I was watching Olympics and he's doing that lobbing, right? I don't know why, but I thought Alexa was going to shout out donkey, and I was like, if he'd have did that, been amazing. You know what that lobby did? He did the early starfish jump to try and get him to smash, and literally Wang Chuqing dumped it off the end of the table.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to just hearing donkey being screamed out. I was just like, come on, please say it.
It brings me on to one of the points I wanted to raise about both of them is who supplies their glasses, because I think we all know people who have either play with glasses or have like got the chain on the back, or they have to wear a headband, or they're constantly, when they go down to the ready position, like pressing them up their face. Those two,
Never.
I
wish
bet they've
they
got a
did.
sweet Specsavers sponsorship though, aren't they?
Yeah, either that or they got some blue tack underneath the underneath the little glasses there on the ears.
That's a
bizarre.
great point. That's a good point, though. They're going to definitely get a good glasses sponsorship, aren't they?
So coming up then, quite an exciting tournament. WTT is going to Montpellier, so that's going to be a great chance to see Felix and Alexei go quite deep in that tournament. Should be some massive games there. You should get all the big Europeans, hopefully some of the Chinese as well that come across for that. That'd be really, really cool. We need to go to that.
I think so too, yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see like the momentum from the Olympics and France right now, table tennis, how well they push that event. And, you know, the stadiums could just be packed out. Everyone wanting to watch the Lebrun brothers potentially. So
Hopefully.
yeah, it could be interesting. And maybe a load of Swedish will come over to watch Trolls, and hopefully this sport just starts flourishing.
Yeah.
And the spectators start filling the seats, because that does help tournaments, right? When the crowd's going nuts.
Speaking of events then, we're going somewhere quite special next week, aren't we?
We're going to UTT. It's going to be awesome, and we're going to be there for a few days covering the event on
Where-
TableTennisDaily.
Where is UTT and what is it, in case people don't know?
It's in Chennai, and it's an incredible league that they're doing in India right now, and they're putting so much into it. And to be honest, the production looks fantastic. I can't wait to just be part of it and see what it's about.
Yeah, it's going to be some exciting content coming out of that for sure. Hopefully get some little chats with people, of some players, maybe some coaches to get on the podcast as well, which would be really cool to have some insight from some different people as well, I think.
Yeah, we're going to take the equipment with us, guys. So we'll do some podcasts out there. So let us know in the comments below if you've got any questions you want us to ask these professional athletes and coaches, and we'll get them to the players.
I'm going to try and block Quadriaruna's forehand.
Good luck.
We might all have to have a go at that.
Just come in with a dent in my back. It's just-
Well, it would just be a hole.
All right, Dan, sign us off.
Yeah.
Episode 4 in the books.
Guys, of course, we're on TableTennisDailyCast on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much for everyone that's following and commenting so far, and we're loving this, and we're going to keep it going and just keep loving the game of table tennis.
Yeah, let us know if there's any particular things you'd like us to discuss on here, maybe any certain topics you'd like us to go into. But yeah, thanks for all the support so far, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Cheers.